Welcome back to the channel. Let's get into a spoiler-free movie review now. I want to talk about You People on Netflix. And it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and maybe I was a little bit too ambitious to think that Netflix could get this genre right. I thought it was going to be a revival of the 2000s comedy genre. You have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you have Eddie Murphy, David Duchovny, Jonah Hill, who I am a big fan of. I thought you have all the tools you needed to make a great comedy. And they kind of fumbled. So I'll get into why I think this movie didn't completely work, although some people were just saying that the entire love story wasn't believable. I don't completely agree with that, but we'll get into all of those things about You People. But before I get into my full spoiler-free review, here's just a little bit of the trailer if you haven't heard or seen it yet.
You're dating a black girl?
I've never felt so understood by somebody in my entire life.
Whether you like it or not, we kind of go together now.
You're my boo, come on. I'm gonna ask her to marry me.
Do you plan to? Out to her family?
Yeah, I just haven't had the chance to meet them. What's going on? Tell me about life. How are you?
So you want to marry my daughter?
Yes, I do.
Well, Ezra, you could try.
So what this movie is about, you have Jonah Hill's character. He is working at this big financial firm where he goes in every day and hates his job, but his real passion is doing a podcast, much like this one, where he just talks about the culture, music, hip hop, sports. And then he meets this girl. He is trying to catch an Uber. He gets into the wrong car. They have this awkward little exchange, and then he decides to take her out on a date. They go on this date where they shut the entire restaurant down with their conversation. But that's a little bit where we begin to see the problem, is this movie just didn't really have enough time to develop their relationship. I didn't fully think while watching it that they lacked chemistry or it was unbelievable. I just thought that you only really had one date to base their entire love on. So then it goes from that first date to him kind of really quickly deciding that he wants to marry her, but he has to go to her parents, aka Eddie Murphy, and ask for the approval to marry his daughter, and Eddie Murphy just completely shuts him down, as you heard in that trailer. So he spends the entire movie trying to convince him that he is right for her daughter, that he is enough, despite the cultural differences, and really just Eddie Murphy hates him for no reason whatsoever aside from the fact that he's white. On the other end, you have Jonah Hill bringing her back to meet his family. Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character is pretty obnoxious. She is pretty cringe and going way overboard, showing that she knows so much about black culture and does a really bad job at welcoming her to the family. And then you have David Duchovny, who plays his dad, who is really just a dimwit in this movie and added no comedic value or really anything to the story. So really what I think the problem was here, it wasn't so much that their love story wasn't believable, it just didn't have enough time to develop. It spent so much time focusing on their parents, trying to get them to like each other, and then just Eddie Murphy just being a jerk the whole time without letting up at all or showing any kind of a different side to him, which I think is what this movie needed. It came maybe very too late in the movie, and by the end of it, you don't really care. And I think what everybody is saying, Lauren London included, that would they even be together in real life or would they even be friends for that matter? She said when she got the script, she found it very unbelievable that the two would be together. So it almost felt with what she said before going into this movie that maybe her heart wasn't fully in it. But aside from that, I just think there wasn't enough emphasis on their love story. There was nothing that made me want to root for them or really feel like they were fighting for something. And I think in a romantic comedy like this, you really need to build that in that first act. You have to build that love story, get us all interested so that by the time we get to that falling action in the second act, and you know, there's always something that goes wrong, will they, won't they? That's really the formula for any romantic comedy like this. You are rooting for them to stay together, but there was just no foundation of love in this movie. So I don't think so much that it wasn't that I couldn't believe that these two were together. I just think there weren't enough scenes in the script that allowed them to show that or gave them enough time to even make an attempt at chemistry. So when people say that it was unbelievable that they would even be together, and I relate on that personally. I don't know if other people have this experience, but I'm Mexican, my wife is white, and I would say 9 out of 10 times that we go out to dinner, they don't believe that we're together. They always ask if we want separate checks. So even I feel that a little bit, even though we're sitting there with wedding rings. Why does it not look like we are a married couple? But if you were to go over to my Instagram and see all of our pictures and know a little bit about our story, you would totally get it. So I think you just need that foundation to know that two people actually care about each other, to know a little bit more about them. That is what this movie needed. We needed an Instagram feed of all their highlights. That's what we need in a rom-com. So what you have in this entire movie is Jonah Hill really trying to carry the comedy, and I'm a big Jonah Hill fan, but he just couldn't quite do it. And I would argue he is one of the best at uncomfortable comedy, but the guy he was playing, I felt like his characteristics were off, because he does this podcast where he's so in the know and so knowledgeable about rap and hip hop, and he is supposed to be an expert. But then when he talks to her dad, he seems more like a dimwit. He doesn't really have that same level of intellect. So it's like, is he a dummy? Is he smart? Or maybe Eddie Murphy's right. So they didn't really hone in on his character. He was just kind of grasping at all of these little comedic things to really bring the movie back. There were some things stylistically that I did enjoy, as far as there's this kind of look that Netflix movies are going for now. It's very bright and colorful, lots of emphasis on the orange, and the movies just look very sleek right now. I feel like they're trying to build this unified look for all Netflix movies. Also, the little transitions and effects on the fonts. I tend to look for those kinds of things in movies. So at least visually, it made me want to continue watching this movie. There's also the actual style in this movie. I'm a big fan of Jonah Hill's fashion. Back when he was posting on Instagram, I would take a lot of fit inspiration by what he would wear. And I like that it kind of felt like he got to bring that to this movie. So that was probably my favorite thing of the entire movie. So because I had such high expectations for this movie and it didn't really leave me laughing at any point, I liked the message it was trying to convey, but the performances just did not make it happen. I don't know what Eddie Murphy was doing in this movie, and it makes me a little bit more hesitant to watch a Netflix movie just because it has an A-list actor in it. I know they are really good at doing that and bringing us familiar faces, bringing us the star power. But look at what Hulu is doing with much more original movies. Look at even what Amazon is doing with their original movies. They don't always have all those big stars at the forefront, but I think they are bringing better stories and delivering better on that aspect, way above Netflix, where it kind of seems like sometimes they just really dumb down their concepts to reach a wider audience. But I feel like we are a lot more knowledgeable as viewers. You don't have to dumb things down for us anymore. We get it. I think we all wanted a movie that was going to make us laugh, and this movie didn't do it. So if I had to rate you people, this hurts me to say it because I love Jonah Hill, but I would give it 2 out of 5 tie-dye sweatsuits.